On September 11, 2001, 19 militants associated with the Islamic extremist group Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 airplanes and carried out suicide attacks against targets in the United States. 2 of the planes were flown into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. A third plane hit the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, just outside Washington, D.C., and the 4th plane crashed in a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Almost 3,000 people were killed during the 9/11 terrorist attacks, which triggered major U.S. initiatives to combat terrorism and defined the presidency of George W. Bush. On September 11, 2001 at 8:45 a.m. on a clear Tuesday morning, an American Airlines Boeing 767 loaded with 20,000 gallons of jet fuel crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. The impact left a gaping, burning hole near the 80th floor of the 110-story skyscraper, instantly killing hundreds of people and trapping hundreds more in higher floors. As the evacuation of the tower and its twin got underway, television cameras broadcasted live images of what initially appeared to be a freak accident. Then, 18 minutes after the first plane hit, a second Boeing 767, United Airlines Flight 175, appeared out of the sky, turned sharply toward the World Trade Center and sliced into the South Tower near the 60th floor. The collision caused a massive explosion that showered burning debris over surrounding buildings and onto the streets below. It immediately became clear that America was under attack. The hijackers were Islamic terrorists from Saudi Arabia and several other Arab nations. Reportedly financed by the Al-Qaeda terrorist organization of Saudi fugitive Osama Bin Laden, they were allegedly acting in retaliation for America's support of Israel, its involvement in the Persian Gulf War and its continued military presence in the Middle East. Some of the terrorists had lived in the United States for more than a year and had taken flying lessons at American commercial flight schools. Others had slipped into the country in the months before September 11 and acted as the muscle in the operation. The 19 terrorists easily smuggled box cutters and knives through security at 3 East Coast airports: Logan International Airport in Boston, Dulles International Airport in Washington, D.C. and Newark International Airport in New Jersey, and boarded 4 early morning flights bound for California, chosen because the planes were loaded with fuel for the long transcontinental journey. Soon after takeoff, the terrorists commandeered the 4 planes and took the controls, transforming ordinary passenger jets into guided missiles. As millions watched the events unfolding in New York, American Airlines Flight 77 circled over downtown Washington, D.C., before crashing into the west side of the Pentagon military headquarters at 9:45 a.m. Born 1957 for Syrian mother, Osama bin Laden was the 7th son among 50 brothers and sisters. His father Mohammed Awad bin Laden came to the kingdom from Hadramaut, South Yemen, sometime around 1930. The father started his life as a very poor laborer, porter in Jeddah port, to end up as owner of the biggest construction company in the kingdom. During the reign of King Saud, bin Laden the father became very close to the royal family when he took the risk of building King Saud's palaces much cheaper than the cheapest bid. He impressed King Saud with his performance, but he also built good relations with other members of the royal family, especially Faisal. During the Saud-Faisal conflict in the early 60s, bin Laden the father had a big role in convincing King Saud to step down in favor of Faisal. After Saud's departure, the treasury was empty and bin Laden was so supportive to King Faisal that he literally paid the civil servants' wages of the whole kingdom for 6 months. King Faisal then issued a decree that all construction projects should go to bin Laden. Indeed, he was appointed for a period as the Minister of Public Works. In 1969 the father took the task of rebuilding Al-Aqsa Mosque after the fire incident. Interestingly, the bin Laden family say that they have the credit of building all the 3 mosques, because later on their company took over the task of major extension in Mecca and Medina mosques. The father was fairly devoted Muslim, very humble and generous. He was so proud of the bag he used when he was a porter that he kept it as a trophy in the main reception room in his palace. The father used to insist on his sons to go and manage some projects themselves. The father had very dominating personality. He insisted to keep all his children in one premises. He had a tough discipline and observed all the children with strict religious and social code. He maintained a special daily program and obliged his children to follow. At the same time, the father was entertaining with trips to the sea and desert. He dealt with his children as big men and demanded them to show confidence at young age. He was very keen not to show any difference in the treatment of his children. Osama was exposed very early on his age to this experience, but he lost his father when he was 13. He married at the age of 17 to a Syrian girl who was a relative. He grew up as religiously committed boy, and the early marriage was another factor of protecting him from corruption. Osama had his primary, secondary and even university education in Jeddah. He had a degree in public administration 1981 from King Abdul Aziz University in Jeddah. Countries of the Arabian Peninsula, Syria, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Sudan are the only countries he has been to. All stories of trips to Switzerland, Philippines, and London are all unfounded. In addition to the general Islamic commitment, he started forming an Islamic responsibility at early age. His father used to host hundreds of pilgrims during Hajj season from all over the world. Some of those were senior Islamic scholars or leaders of Muslim movements. This habit went on even after his father's death through his elder brothers. He used to make good contacts and relations through those gatherings. At secondary school and university he adopted the main trend of many educated Muslims at that time, Muslim Brotherhood. There was a collection of Muslim scholars in Jeddah and Mecca at that period. There was nothing extraordinary in his personality, and the trend was rather very non-confrontational. Interestingly, the 1980 raid in the Grand Mosque in Mecca was not appealing to him, neither the theology or that group. He had two distinguished teachers in Islamic studies, which was a compulsory subject in the university. First was Abdullah Azzam, who became later as one of the big names in Afghanistan, and the second was Muhammad Qutb, a famous Islamic writer and philosopher. The first encounter with Afghanistan